Welcome to Connect, the podcast for California MBA featuring one-on-one interviews with the movers and shakers in the mortgage industry. I'm Paul Gigliotti, CEO of the California MBA, and I'm thrilled that you could join us today. Before we get started on today's podcast, I'd love to thank our 2025 President Council sponsors. Those companies are AmeriHome, Consolidated Analytics, Funding Shield, Guild Mortgage, Rocket Mortgage, Wiener, Brodsky and Kinder, and Western Alliance Bank. These companies provide such a tremendous level of financial support for our association, and we are greatly appreciated of their continued support. So on today's Connect podcast, I am thrilled and excited to welcome the one and only Leah Sommerville with a very extensive background. Leah is the Director of Sales at DocMagic. She's been a driving force behind DocMagic's digital mortgage transformation and earning great accolades, such as the 2025 HousingWire Rising Star. Congratulations, Leah. That's a great honor. You're also deeply seated in leading e-closing strategy and helping hundreds of lenders move towards that fully digital workflow. With recent launches like DocMagic One, which is an AI-powered all-in-one production platform, and pioneering HELOC registry via MERS e-registry. I'm so impressed with how DocMagic continues to push the boundaries of what's possible in mortgage tech. Leah, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Paul.
So that was a huge mouthful. I could almost barely not get it out. There is so much to unpack. So let's jump in. Your career at Leah has been centered around e-closing and digital mortgage transformation. Important question. What originally drew you into this space? And how has your perspective evolved over time, closely related, if you can, to e-closing and digital mortgage?
Oh, yes, Paul. Well, when I entered the mortgage industry in 2017, I immediately saw how much opportunity there was to modernize the lending experience for both lenders and their borrowers with technology. What initially drew me in and really continues to fuel my passion is the ability to make a real, measurable impact. When a lender transitions from paper to digital, they're not just saving time, they're reducing risk, ensuring compliance, and creating a more transparent, empowering experience for borrowers. Now, Paul, don't hold it against me, but I'm a millennial. So when I came into this space, I expected to push button, get mortgage.
Yeah.
But I quickly discovered that closing remained one of the most complex and paper-heavy stages of the loan process. While other parts of the learn journey had evolved, the closing experience still lagged behind. So I looked at this as a challenge and saw it as an enormous opportunity to help lenders achieve true digital transformation. So over time, my perspective has certainly evolved from simply advocating for technology and expecting it from a consumer perspective to also understanding how transformative it can be when paired with the right strategy and support.
Yeah. That's super insightful and actually enlightening. And you brought up something really interesting. I'm going to deviate a little bit in the conversation. I was recently with Misty Snow at Better, and we were talking about what the consumer is demanding. And it's what's very interesting about this, and it correlates to what you're saying. It's not just about accelerating the process. So it's not just about time and easeability, but the consumer is also looking for accuracy, right? Because everything is so AI driven. AI is accurate, as you know, with your solutions at DocMagic, there's accuracy and there's speed. And that next gen home buyer really is demanding both because that's what they're used to, right? So I'm sure you saw that when you were walking in the space. And that's why the move toward a fully digital closing is so important, but it's still a journey for many lenders. I mean, I come from the lending space, and I'm still shocked how many lenders have not moved towards that digital close. In your experience, share with us, what are the biggest barriers you see to adoption, whether it's cultural, technical, or even regulatory, and how you at DocMagic and you yourself are helping those clients overcome those barriers.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned regulatory being a barrier because it
Really,
certainly,
regulatory being a barrier? Never.
yes, I think we are all familiar with that. But if I can find one positive thing about COVID, when everyone had to pivot as quickly as possible because they couldn't provide in-person interactions, we saw a lot of the regulation that relates to e-closing update and become more uniform really quickly out of necessity. So I would say at this point, regulation isn't the biggest barrier. Instead, the biggest barrier is change management. But that's also what makes my work so rewarding to me because I'm a people person. So it's not just about implementing technology, it's about requiring rethinking outdated and labor intensive workflows and bringing multiple stakeholders into alignment. So that can start with compliance, who really cares about those regulations, but it extends also to operations, settlement partners, and even investors. So it's really as much about people and processes as it is about the platforms and the technology themselves. When you mentioned that, not all lenders have implemented e-closings just yet, I will acknowledge that, there's a common misconception with e-closings that it's all or nothing. But in reality, it's a scalable journey that can be introduced gradually based on each lender's comfort level. So I really take to heart my responsibility in helping to demystify the process, anticipate obstacles before they arise, and serve as a true partner from start to finish. So that doesn't just relate to the implementation of eClose technology, that absolutely extends to scalable adoption. And that adoption can look different for every single lender.
Do you think I'm very curious to hear your perception, and then I'll shed light on mine if you wouldn't mind. Do you think the perception, as it relates to change management and adoption, do you think it's fear-based?
Oh, absolutely. That's just
Yeah.
a people skill, I 100% think. But I do think that is why it is very helpful for that change to come from the top down and to identify who is the most malleable when you're looking at implementing this. Get some really strong LOs that can adopt to change. Once they start doing it, all of their colleagues will see how much of a better experience this is, not only for them and their organization, but also for their borrowers. And I believe in my heart that those LOs and those processors care about people too.
Yeah, start with production, right? Start with the ones that are hitting to the consumer. And if they start delivering these e-closing, if they start transforming their business to an e-closing and they hear more and more from consumers, that was so much better than XYZ mortgage lending company because of the e-close, then the production staff are going to start jumping up and down. And that's when people really listen. That's a great point, Leah.
Thank you.
So a little bit about you as we're talking about DocMagic and all the fabulous things DocMagic does with the e-closing transformation, all the products they're bringing to market for the lenders. I want to talk about you as a director of sales. And what I've noticed in my research is that you're not just a director of sales. You're not just a strategist, but you're someone that is in the trenches helping lenders implement solution, which is really important as you're talking about one of the biggest hurdles is change management. Can you share a story or a lesson? And you don't have to get specific if you don't want to, but just a story or a lesson from working with a lender who was very skeptical at first, cultural, maybe technology, whatever the case is, at adopting an e-closing solution or e-closing solution across all their business channels. And that ended up embracing the digital platform with this happy-go-lucky story. Do you have something up your sleeve you could share with us?
Yeah, my experience implementing e-closing and technology has certainly varied because technology is not one size fits all. So I've implemented digital closing workflows with thousands of organizations, and that not only includes lenders, but also their business partners. Some of those lenders had a goal of providing all of their borrowers completely electronic e-closings or having a branch that only does e-closings. Or I've worked with other lenders that say, I want to dip my toe in the pond and get started with hybrid one e-closings, which are permissible on every single loan, and then scale up to e-notes and maybe the e-notarization. So lenders and their business partners even work hand in hand. So in turn, it's only been natural that I extend my guidance to not only the lenders, but their business partners as well, so that those lenders can really scale their e-close workflow to include those e-notes. I would have to say the most valuable lessons I've learned leaning on trusted partners to provide guidance would be amongst them. Um, Everyone that's currently providing e-closings has sat in the same seat of those lenders that are just thinking about it and kind of kicking the tires at this point. So don't feel bad if you fall in that latter bucket. I would caution you that if you're not doing some version of e-closing, you're falling behind competitors, but that's where DocMagic steps in. All we ask is that you show up and our eClose experts will be the fishing guides. We provide you the expertise, the tools, the ongoing hands-on training that we have derived from our years of experience. And that's not only for the eClose implementation. Again, I have to reiterate that scaling and growing your eClose strategy in future years to come as well. So I am very proud that this white glove shepherding approach has been very successful thus far. DocMagic's eClose adoption continues to exceed the industry average by about 20%.
Wow.
Completed over 3 million e-closings and over 850 million e-signatures at this point, all with our proprietary technology. And like you mentioned earlier, we were recently the first organization to register an eHELOC with MERS. So we're seeing this expand. We're growing ahead of the curve.
Good for you. That's awesome. And the HELOCs are so important. Right now, obviously we're coming into an area where we're hoping to see that refi boom, if you will, or maybe a little bit less than a boom. I think that I've heard multiple acronyms out there, but HELOCs have such a strong play in the marketplace right now because I know my husband and I don't want to get rid of our 3.25 interest rate, right? And if we need to tap into equity, for whatever reason, it would be through a HELOC. So that's awesome that DocMagic is ahead of the curve on that. I loved your talk and concept about change management. I think that's so important for mortgage lenders to take a look at right now. I want to ask really quickly, have you seen the rate of adoption? Have you noticed it be a higher level or more successful based on the size of the lender, right? So have you seen those small to mid-sized lenders or IMBs adopt something so forward thinking or so new as eClose quicker than a larger or vice versa? Or is it really just a mix and based off of culture?
Culture is going to be important because of the change adoption aspect. I would say smaller organizations, because they're typically more agile, will get to market faster with e-closing. Whereas larger organizations may have proprietary technology that they want to accommodate their e-close strategy. So DocMagic works with the small, the mid-size, and those large lenders to accommodate the quick rollout or the integrations that they need with their proprietary technology so that they have a seamless experience for their borrowers.
That's huge. And that's actually the answer I was looking for. I think it's really important that our listeners know whether you're a small mom and pop IMB and licensed in a handful of states, but you've got a close-knit community of customers, that DocMagic eClose is just as easy to roll out for you as it is for the larger ones. And so that's something that I want our listeners to, take away from, that you don't have to be this massive mortgage giant to be tech forward and to really have those tools that the consumer is looking for. Now, Leah, looking toward 2026, which is right around the corner, what do you believe, I should say, I apologize. What do you believe are the next frontiers in digital mortgage and eClose? And right now, as we look at that as the question, how should our lenders be preparing to stay ahead of the curve and prep for what's coming down the pipeline with e-mortgage and eClose, digital close?
Yeah, I like looking ahead, Paul. But before I can do so, I have to acknowledge that if lenders aren't already offering the hybrid one version of e-closing, they're already falling behind. Now, to take the hybrid one e-closing a step further, fully electronic closings are already possible in many states, including California. So a lot of lenders in California don't realize that California does have remote online legislation. Now, it officially takes effect once the California Secretary of State finalizes its RON regulations, or by 2030, whichever comes first. So that's still a little future facing, which was part of your question.
Right.
Now, many lenders in California are already conducting RON e-closings using out-of-state RON notaries, or they leverage California notaries for in-person electronic notarization e-closings. Like I mentioned, it's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
I will acknowledge that we have seen them take the digital experience past just mortgage closings at this point. So lenders are applying e-sign, e-vault, and e-delivery technology to other asset classes such as auto loans, commercial lending, and equipment leases, which collectively is known as e-chattel in the e-ecosystem. So the goal is still the same: to streamline processes and funding, reduce risk, and deliver a better, seamless borrower experience across all lending channels. As systems communicate more seamlessly and trusted compliance becomes more automated, lenders have the opportunity to focus on what truly matters, which is building relationships and delivering a faster, more transparent experience for borrowers. And that's really the future I'm excited to help shape.
Oh, that's awesome. And you are doing such a great job at it. Leah, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your insights on how DocMagic is helping move the mortgage industry forward through innovation, automation, and real focus on client success. And as we were saying, regardless of the size of your organization, I think that's very important and top of mind. So thank you for joining us. To access all of our content, to access all of our Connect podcast episodes, please follow our YouTube channel. We're also available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Connect, and we look forward to seeing you next time.